Wednesday captive audience. And I'm Sunny Danforth, and tonight it is Guilty of False Opinion. Kevin Hoare is filling in for Don Anderson, who is just predisposed at the moment. He would rather be here with us, but I think he's stuck in traffic somewhere.
He is fighting his way back from Seattle to Portland, as I understand it, through some nasty traffic. But I just reminded him that all those roadways designed by the Democrats. They don't like cars, so there you go. Just a constant reminder.
Yeah, it is. And I have to apologize to our viewers, our supporters, our faithful audience that we have of last Friday's glitch. Let me tell you, it was kind of the proverbial stuff hitting the fan, and it's sometimes these things happen. So I do apologize that we were not on Friday, and it's sometimes life happens, right? Life happens, and that's just the way it goes. But here we are today, and there's still a plethora of news, lots of topics, and you know what else is in abundance? Unfortunately, the indictments of Trump. Yeah. Oh my God!
By the Department of Injustice.
Yes.
Yeah, which is, I think, I just saw a headline which captured my attention. Rosendahl, I don't remember what his background is, but it was on Newsmax, and he said the greatest threat to our republic right now is the Department of Injustice and the way it's turned us into a banana republic. My name tonight, Guilty of False Opinion, speaks directly to that, because I was watching, and I've watched a lot of reaction to this, because I kind of need to get my head around why this is so ridiculous. Alan Dershowitz, who is a Democrat, who says he votes for Democrats, but he is honest. And he's even written a book about how they're destroying the justice system to get Trump. This has happened again. And he said, there is no such thing. And with the First Amendment, there is no such thing as false opinion. You cannot offer an opinion that you can criminalize for being false. It's your opinion. And then someone else has their opinion, and then other people can decide for themselves whether they agree or disagree. But what they're doing in these charges is they're indicting Trump because they first of all, they're trying to claim that his opinion was that he actually knew he had lost the election and didn't think there was any voter fraud. I can't think of anything less believable than that assertion. And then they're saying that he was offering an opinion to which he's entitled to do. We are all entitled to do that. Certainly the President of the United States is entitled to do that. And Alan Dershowitz said, it doesn't meet the standard. You can't do that, because if somebody has the opinion that the election was stolen, then that's their opinion. You can't go and say, we're going to go ahead and claim that you violated all these sets of laws because you had an opinion about an election, especially when you were the one on the ballot. So I think that's a point I wanted to bring out today, because as I get my head around this, it's pure politics. Jack Smith, the prosecutor, didn't talk about the charges. He said, go read them. All he did in his presentation yesterday was he gave a political speech about January 6th and how awful it was, and thanked the Capitol Police, who were giving tours, as we saw on video. And he didn't indict Trump for inciting a riot. He didn't do that. The third indictment is a conspiracy to do something that he didn't do. So now I'm a little disappointed today in Vice President Pence. His reaction today, both on Twitter and then on video, is that he was saying he thinks that Donald Trump should never be president again, and that he says he chose the Constitution over Donald Trump, and claimed that Donald Trump put himself over the Constitution. I think that that's another instance where they had different opinions about what the power of the vice president as the president of the Senate in Congress on January 6th had the power to do. And Vice President Pence is entitled to his opinion, and he was the one deciding what his own actions would be. But I don't think he gets to condemn, certainly not to sound like he's almost defending this banana republic set of indictments. But by the way, they're in the District of Columbia, and they have a judge who I think is best described as a hanging judge when
Yeah.
it comes to January 6th people. She is somebody who was appointed by Obama. She used to work for a firm that hired Hunter Biden to work for it, and before she became a federal judge. And she's been relentlessly hostile not only to Trump, but when January 6th defendants have been brought before her, even when the Justice Department has not been asking for the for jail time, she's been giving them jail time. She's decided that she's on a one-person jihad against anybody who supported Trump, no matter what. And this is the judge that's been assigned this case in a district that's like 95% Democrat. And so they've got a very good chance of getting convictions on stuff that I don't even think, as Alan Dershowitz put it, will stand up to appellate court scrutiny. If it goes to the Supreme Court, they're throwing this out. And so this is just a big political game. I am proud of Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State. He defended the president, not Biden. He defended President Trump. And I think we're starting to see the people that are running for the presidential nomination. We're starting to get to see who they really are and how they react to this. Because I don't know how anyone could seriously be considered for the Republican nomination if they either defend what Merrick Garland and Jack Smith and Biden's Justice Department are doing. I think that if they don't actually take a vehement opposition to this and condemn it, then they can't represent us on an issue that's important, which is a weaponized Department of Justice being used to essentially criminalize political opposition. Why would you want someone to be the nominee of your party who's okay or saying virtually nothing about the Department of Justice and Biden criminalizing us? So I've gotten that off my chest here. My false opinion.
Well, and I'll tell you, it's destroying our justice. And I do like what Alan Dershowitz has said. Very, very, very much. He said, this is it, and what you just said too, this is pure politics. There is nothing. And you know what? We used to have, everybody could have their own opinion, and we all went, oh, you respected somebody else's opinion, whether it differed with yours or not. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And that tolerance is gone. And that is all by design, trying to, I believe, to pitting us against each other. How dare you think like that or say that? Oh my
Yeah, we're
word.
tired of that, aren't we? We're tired of that. We're done
Right.
with anybody who tolerates saying you're not allowed, that you're being convicted of thought crimes and opinion crimes. Those don't exist in this country. They don't exist.
Yeah, and we still have the First Amendment, and we've got to fight for our rights, because this is lawfare, this is unjust, it's illegal, and it's wrong. I'll tell you, it's amazing to see the lawfare of what's going on. Any lawyer that is defending a conservative or has been defending Trump has been sued to go and under ethics charges, and mostly bogus ethics charges for the cases that I have seen, just to try to disbar lawyers for their client. Another injustice that is happening is the lawyer-client privilege has now been
Breached.
Breached.
Yeah, this
Exactly.
judge actually is the one who did this in part during the January 6th impeachment hearings. She actually okayed going and taking records straight from his counsel and saying, "Go ahead and use it." So,
And L. Lynn Wood has said he was they had tried to get records of his client records of his, and he said, I am not giving those over. That is grounds to lose my law license
yeah,
if I do that, because there is the sanctity, or has been up until now, the sanctity of the attorney-client privilege. So yeah, Pence, yeah, everybody's eyes are getting opened more. I liked Vivek Ramaswamy. He had said, hey, you know what? I'm suing the DOJ for the records of this.
yeah.
He's gone on the attack. And he's got the money to do it. He doesn't have to
Got the
rely
money.
on the
You know,
donors.
he just won a similar judgment against the World Economic Forum that actually tried to claim he was connected with them, and it turns out it was false. That guy, he's a
Yeah,
fighter.
he is.
I think his stock is rising, and
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
this process brings out both the best and the worst in people, and you learn something about them, don't you? Like Ted Cruz, who was a candidate in 2016, he has come out not only defending President Trump, but also going after this judge, saying you have to get a different venue and a different judge because they will actually vote to convict, and they don't care what the facts are.
No.
They don't care.
No, and then it will get it turned over on appeal. But you know what? It should never be like this. It should not be when there is a conflict of interest and you'll never get a fair trial. That's what it's all about, is a fair trial. And you are innocent until proven guilty. Not let's open all of your tax records and all of your business records, and we're going to find the crime against you, because boy, oh boy, is that not what they've been trying to do to Trump. And
yeah, we're not supposed to have a system where you go and investigate people to go find a crime. You're
right.
supposed to actually investigate a crime, and then you find who's responsible for it. And the Democrats have flipped this on its head. Plus, they've gone and they've taken laws and stretched them to the absolute limits of, well, beyond what they can tolerate. Dershowitz has pointed this out. One of the statutes that's being used against Trump is an 1870 statute that was designed to be used during Reconstruction after the Civil War, and it was used to deal with the Ku Klux Klan trying to prevent people from voting, black people from voting in the South, and he's turning this into somehow claiming that Donald Trump was trying to deprive people of their rights. When you know
they're
that
having to scrape the bottom of the barrel and dig in the weeds to come up with something, and try to apply it to today.
That's right. And they know that they can get a jury in DC to convict, and a judge who will make it all possible. And then they figure, yeah, it's bogus and they'll get overturned on appeal. But who cares? Because we're using the justice system to fight a political war against our opposition. And they know it'll last long enough to impact that political process, which means that the people interfering in the election interference is being done
this is
by the Department of Justice, and they're doing it now. I've got some, by the way, Victoria Tunsing. Do you know her? She's
yes, I do. I know who she is.
Conservative lawyer. She's really good, and she made a great point that I got to see earlier today. She goes, I have a case. They say it's unprecedented. Jack Smith said this is unprecedented, this election interference that he's trying to claim that he can convict Trump on. And she goes, no, it's not unprecedented. There's a predicate for this in the past, and it's people putting forward and using the machinery of government to actually create false stories that are used to damage a candidate and interfere with an election. And she said, remember Russia, except that wasn't one day or a few hours. That was over 2 years.
Yes.
Have any of those people been brought up on these charges? Have any of those people, or any of them on any charges, been brought up and are defending themselves in court and facing jail time? No. That is the definition of how our justice system is being used. It's being used as a political weapon. It's not being used for justice. So, well, I think we gave everybody a heavy dose of false opinion there, and take it to the bank.
Yes.
What else we got? We're going to cover here tonight.
Talking about taking it to the bank, Fitch has downgraded the U.S. credit rating, and it's citing erosion of confidence in fiscal management. You think? And of course, the White House slams the rating agency's decision. And, it's historically another bad moment for the Biden administration, quite frankly. It's
And there is one
having,
time this was done before, by the way. I think it was 2011 or 2012. And it happened when someone else was president who apparently was causing the confidence of the fiscal stability of our system to be eroded through heavy deficit spending and frankly poor
was that
governance.
under Obama?
Yeah, that's who was in charge, and he was resisting efforts to get these things under control with the new Republican Congress that came in
Yeah.
2011. So, yeah, elect people that undermine fiscal confidence, and you're going to get your credit rating downgraded, which actually makes it more expensive for the government to borrow money, as it would happen.
Yes, and Fitch's forecasts that the general government deficit will climb to 6.3% of GDP in this year, 2023, up from 3.7 in 2022, due to
Cyclical, yeah.
Well, that's not quite the word, but it is lower federal revenues, new spending initiatives, and a greater interest burden. Cyclic. That's weird.
Cyclically, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
cyclically. That's it.
And I think that is saying basically that the economy is slowing. We're getting less federal revenues. They're adding spending, and then because interest rates are now higher, the government has to pay more money for the money it borrows. So it's almost a doubling of the deficit as a percentage of our gross domestic product. That's not sustainable.
No, it isn't, and it does show the frailty actually of our economy. And we're not as strong as Bidenomics would make you want to think that it is. He says, oh yeah, everything's going just fine. Well, the Bidenomics is planned to destroy the economy of America. That's exactly what they're doing. This is, by all appearances, that's exactly what it looks like, right? Nothing is better. And I saw a little ticker that they wanted to spend a lot of money to buy. It was 6 million barrels of oil for our reserves, emergency reserves, and somebody shot it down. And I'm thinking, what the heck? Let's see, sell low and buy high, because that's what's happening.
And sell it to China, by the way.
Well, yes.
They were taking our cheap reserves that we need for emergencies and selling it to the country that's maybe most likely to create the emergency we need the reserves for one day.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is not this is actually, it's not good news. Not good news for America, not good news for our country and the whole our economy at all. And today I had seen, I've been pretty busy today and I'm not around much, so I haven't seen really much television or heard much in that, but I had seen the markets heading down. And I thought, I wonder what's going on. Well, could this be it? I don't know.
Yeah, but they also haven't managed to tame inflation. So they're still raising interest rates because they haven't actually slowed that down. So now we got the worst of both worlds. It's stagflation. We got a slowing, stagnant economy, but then we've got inflation that's still going up, and we've still got interest rates going up. And I hope we don't get to Jimmy Carter territory on this economically. But
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was bad. That was bad.
I knew it was bad when the Rolling Stones sang about it in one of their songs. The prime rate's going up, 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 up. That was like, okay, they hit the big time, because usually musicians don't talk about interest rates. But,
no, exactly. No, that is not their bailiwick, really. Not really. Well, hey, this let's talk a little about the Devin Archer and his testimony that he gave into the House. You
Yeah,
know,
so
and
let's Evan Archer, we should remind everybody, is the guy who was the business partner of Hunter Biden for a better part of a decade. And he's actually been convicted of something, but he's also he hasn't been sentenced yet. And he agreed to come before the House Republican Oversight Committee, headed by James Comer, to answer questions, to tell us if, for instance, if the things that took place with Hunter Biden, what were they? What did he see? What did he experience? And also, most importantly, did Joe Biden, who says that he wasn't involved in Hunter Biden's business and never talked with any of these people that they got the big buckets of cash from, hostile foreign powers that were looking for influence peddling and favors and access. And it turns out Devin Archer has actually given us quite a bit of information that is changing the whole picture here, isn't he?
yes, he has. In fact, he has given his testimony, they're saying, is the roadmap for the next steps into the Biden investigation. And it's looking like the crime is selling access to the federal government, to adversaries around the world. And this family's been actively doing that for 2 decades. That's what Comer said. That was a quote from Comer. And so this really is bombshell testimony that happened on Monday. And there's going to be more coming from what little bit that I saw. And but we have got to see there we have got to open impeachment.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
I don't know what they're waiting for. There is truly evidence and real crimes here. What are they waiting for? What do you think they're waiting for, Kevin?
well, I don't know, because I don't know what's on their plan to what they're going to do next. I usually only hear like we're going to have this person come in and testify in this state. However, a roadmap does suggest that once you get somebody to tell you something and you have some information, that usually leads to someone else, and you keep peeling away those layers of the onion until you get to the one with the smoking gun. And I think they're getting closer. I thought they actually probably got a potential smoking gun from Devin Archer, although I heard he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson after he appeared on in front of Congress. And I'm posting a link to that. You can go watch it. And it's part one. So I guess there's going to be more to the video you can watch. It's about 12 minutes long. And uh, he sounds a little bit flaky, but every time Tucker asks him a question, he's like, yeah, that could be true. And it's sort of like, yes, it's true. That's what DC isn't full of business people. It's full of influence peddlers,
Yes.
selling influence and trying to get influence for others. But he did say that he had met Joe Biden on 20 plus occasions. He also had been present on conference calls in which Joe Biden dialed in, supposedly just to talk to his son about the weather. And it just so happened that somebody associated with a Chinese military controlled company that was giving money to them just happened to hear that Joe Biden was on the same conference call. I guess they couldn't figure out how to use their cell phones or to go off to the side and have a chat about the weather. So that's a typical ploy, isn't it? If you're influence
Yes.
peddling, it's like it's sort of proof that you actually have access to the person you say you have access to produce the outcome, and therefore you're worth the cash. This is how you do it. And Joe Biden lied and said he didn't do this. He never was involved with this. He was never on any of these conference calls. And now they're beginning to corroborate that, in fact, he did exactly that, and that he knew what was going on. And I don't care if he considers himself senile enough to not remember some of it. Now the proof's coming forward, which is what I think they might be trying to do, is accumulate hardcore, undeniable proof. Uh, I do think that it almost has to be a kind of slam dunk too, initially, to get something like in a closely divided Congress to get every single person on board, because
Mhm.
you have to.
Yeah.
And then impeachment inquiries don't mean you're impeaching them. They mean that you now have enhanced powers to seek information that will help you determine whether or not there actually is grounds for articles of impeachment. And I think that Kevin McCarthy has said he supports doing that.
He does support, he has said that. And it hasn't happened yet. And it should. That's what I'm saying. Because he has said that. He actually explained that it gives them, the House, more power, this committee more power to look and get the files and the information that they've been seeking, that agencies have been stonewalling on. And so I think they need to do the impeachment investigation and to go at it further. But I do like that Comer said, stay tuned for the brothers. This is a crime family, and the crime is selling access, and this family's been actively doing it for 2 decades. So there's a lot to uncover. When you start peeling back those layers, there's a lot to uncover. Do they have to go back 2 decades? No, they don't. But they can go to pretty recent events. But yet the things, let's just take the documents he had, next to the Corvette.
Yeah.
There's so much here that they of course have indicted Trump on. Then, and as we know, the Democrats have a history of accusing Republicans of exactly what they are doing.
Yeah, exactly what they are doing.
Yes.
And there was only one Democrat in the Devon Archer hearing on Monday. The rest of them refused to be there.
How is that? How do you not listen to testimony? It's plausible deniability. I wasn't here. I didn't hear it firsthand. What is
Yeah,
that?
I think they're infants. Actually, it's almost like a little 3-year-old going, "La, la, 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 la," but there was one guy in there, and he was the designated guy to go and do the double speak denials. And Devon Archer just said that there's no evidence said by Devon Archer that Joe Biden knew anything about the calls that he was on. We only heard Devon Archer say that he did hear them talk about the weather. And so this guy's just out there. I compared him last night when I was talking to David to this lawyer character on Saturday Night Live that one of the comedians used to play, called Nathan Thurm. And all he did is he constantly bounced back to you. I didn't say that. You said that. I didn't say that. That's not true. You said that. I didn't say that. And he would just to double speak and confuse people, and to try and cause a story or a narrative to exist, a counter narrative to what's emerging. And I don't think it's going to work, because this is going to be cold, hard facts and testimony, stuff that the Democrats don't usually bother with.
No, they don't. No, they don't. But it's just alarming that, to me, if you are elected to be in representing your state and your area, and you are on a committee, you've got a committee assignment, then your job is to be on the committee. Your job is to go look at all the evidence, good, bad, the good, bad, and the ugly, right? And come up with, so how digest this.
And they didn't ask any questions, which they could have done. Which, if you think about it, it must
So
be
what,
too
you had
dangerous.
one Democrat that didn't ask any question?
That's right. So
it was still
it's
a
too dangerous
bipartisan
to ask
committee.
questions. What's that?
It was still a bipartisan committee then.
It was still a bipartisan committee, but I guess they couldn't risk not having, because see, the transcript hasn't been released yet. I guess Devon Archer gets a chance to go ahead and to issue any corrections if he misspoke.
Right.
So that,
right.
because you're under oath.
Right.
And that's not unusual for them to do that before they release the transcript. And that was the agreement with him. So, but Goldman or Golden or whatever, the congressman from New York who's issuing all the misinformation, he's saying he wants the transcript to come out. Okay. But you know what? I don't think Dan Golden thought that Tucker Carlson would be interviewing Devon Archer. And so I recommend everybody watch that, because it's really entertaining. to
Yeah.
see how he gets the truth to come out. And I think this is actually part of the way we restore our justice system. That is why, and David said last night that some people are afraid that if we pursue impeachment and all these hearings, that we'll lose the election next year,
Mm-mm.
and that we should just run on the issues. The
No.
biggest issue is turning out to be our weaponized justice system being used to destroy political and criminalize political opposition. Without it, all the other stuff doesn't matter. If you've been condemned as criminals and they can use the justice system as a weapon to destroy you, then we don't have a government. Then what we have is a tyranny.
You're absolutely right. And the second biggest issue is the validity of our elections. If there is no, and this is where both sides, this is a nonpartisan issue. Everybody in America should want free and fair elections. And so let's dig into any issues. And if there's nothing there, then so be it. I think there are issues there. And Lord knows during COVID, using the mail-in ballot system as they were, that and secretaries of states or election directors changing the how we're going to run our elections, there was a lot of hanky-panky going on with all of that. And then of course you take into the ballot harvesting, ballot box stuffing. We've already seen some evidence of issues. And
I just saw Carrie Lake speak in Marion County. David was there too on Saturday. And she explained some of the things that occurred in Arizona in 2022. So one of the things was printing a bunch of ballots that were going to be rejected by the machine and therefore not counted as valid because they were misprinted. There was some 240,000 misprinted ballots that were available on election day. Everybody
wow.
knew that on election day, that was the day when a much heavier percentage of Republicans would be voting versus voting earlier, like many of the Democrats do. And so it was a way somebody made that decision to not only print but also use those ballots. And if it's totally just a coincidental accident, we should be able to get to the bottom of that and prove or disprove whether that's true. She's like, not an accident, not the way it happened, not the way so many Republican heavy counties were affected. And so if we don't do something about this, about the justice system, about the faith and trust in our elections, they will keep doing it.
Yeah.
They didn't learn, hey, 2020, we escaped with some fraud, but we're not doing that again because we might get caught next time. Well, no, they did it in 2022.
They'll double down.
Yeah.
They will. And so, it's I'll tell you, it's interesting times that we're living in our country and what we're seeing. And this is why we have to continually talk to people. We have to share the truth and messages about this and push back on what's happening and go, no. Somebody on here says, just say no. I don't know where it was, up in the comments. And that's exactly it. And frankly, as Trump said, they're not coming after him. They're coming after you, which is us.
Yep.
And
he's the surrogate for us. That's the reason why all this stuff really, really matters.
He is. And it does. But, I have a little, just on this note, I have some good news. Today, I had to take my car over to the dealership. I had an issue happening. And the fellow was bringing me back to my house, giving me a ride home so they could work on my car. And he is a Hispanic guy. And so we get talking. I see some cut up wind turbine blades on a back of a truck. And I go, oh, look, there's those awful recyclable, wind turbine blades going down the road. And he goes, oh, I hate those things. Well, I'll tell you what, it ended up, I found out that he's a conservative guy.
Huh.
We got through our conversation. He's a conservative guy. And he says, in the 2020 election, he says, I actually voted for Obama the first time. He says, I got hoodwinked. But then I realized that never again, this is not right. So we had this talk that he changed his voter registration. He's talked to his family about changing their voter registration. He says, we're all conservatives. All of us Mexicans, is what he said.
Hmm.
That's what he said. He goes, we are conservative. I said, I know. But the Democrats want you to have another narrative. He goes, oh, did I get beat up on social media? And I go, but you know what? You're taking the arrows, but you're right. I said, good for you for educating your family and friends. And I said, look it, I need you. We've got a campaign office over here, and I need you because you can help us to get the message out in your community. And so I made a connection today, and it was just so refreshing to meet this young man that it's awesome how things work out, right? And the conversations that we're able to have. And we have to always be willing to have the conversation, no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent. It could have gone any other way, right? It could have gone another route, and I would have tried to plant some different seeds. But instead, I was trying to recruit him to come on down, join us, because what we're talking about is education of voters, and how many people don't vote because they don't understand the issue, they don't know the candidates and whatnot, and so they don't have the confidence to vote, to even fill out their ballot. And so it was so refreshing today going, oh yes, so despite all of the crud that is going on around, we do have people, more and more people are waking up. They're waking up to what's going on. This lawfare and this trying to destroy America. And so I loved it that I was able to have that conversation. It made me feel really good today. And I look forward to more conversations with him.
I think that's great. And I do think that that is something we have to all have the courage to do. Even if it takes us a little outside our comfort zone, we might find that we're actually making somebody else feel comfortable doing something that we almost take for granted. And that it's a do-it-yourself country. He didn't come from Mexico to the United States so he could live under a tyranny with phony elections and the government telling you what to do all the time. He came here to raise his kids and his family and earn an income and achieve his dream. And that is something that the Democrats, they have a plan for you. And if you let them get away with all this stuff, you're not going to like that plan. We're already seeing what it looks like right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have to kind of do our part, sweep our side of the street in whatever way, shape, or form that we can, talking at the grocery store or whatever it is, right? Social media, sharing the messages, and stuff like that. But we do have to have this one-on-one dialogue with people. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that was a little bit of good news today.
Yeah, and I think we need to make sure our elected officials know how we feel, even if they don't necessarily seem to see things our way. We still need to let them know. And I don't know. Did you want to talk
I've
briefly
got
about?
I've got something else that I want to talk about, and that is I've got another story that I want to post here for you, and this is what I wanted to talk about. It is a solar facility will take up 10,900 acres of Eastern Oregon farmland. And so I'm all about smart siting of energy, and I'm not against wind energy or any of that. But you know what? When it comes to eating up high value farm ground, I have an issue, because our farmland is to feed people and feed animals that feed people, and shouldn't be used for that. We have lands that can be definitely used. So the reason I wanted to talk about this, I wanted you to talk about this story. This is in Morrow County, and the paperwork has just gotten filed that it's a huge solar facility that will be cited by FSEC, Energy Facility Siting Council. is that's the Oregon Department of Energy Facility Siting Council, and ODO, Oregon Department of Energy. And so we have today, I was at a hearing with the county commissioners. We have here in Umatilla County a project called Nolan Hills that has, and it is solar, wind, and battery storage project that hasn't broke ground. They just got a site certificate. But here in Umatilla County, we have a 2-mile setback on wind turbines from residences, urban growth boundaries, highly erodible soils, protected streams with protected fish, and whatnot like that. Well, this project, Nolan Hills, FSEC, this state agency has said we don't need to comply with the Umatilla County ordinance. Well, that's not why we have land use laws. We have land use laws that everybody are supposed to follow them. And so just today, there was a group of us went before our county commissioners and are asking our county commissioners to take this. The very last step is taking it to the Supreme Court. Well, if they don't take it to the Supreme Court, it will set a precedent not just for Umatilla County that a state agency doesn't have to follow local ordinances. That will apply statewide. And it's not right, because it is in our Oregon administrative rules, in the land use rules, that we can have ordinances that are more strict than the state's ordinances. We cannot lessen the state's ordinances,
Right.
but we can be stricter.
Yeah.
So it is lawful what's been done. This little band of people from Blue Mountain Alliance actually defended to the Supreme Court the 2-mile setback, and it was the 2-mile setback was upheld. A portion of the ordinance was not upheld, and that was where a landowner could waive their right to I'm not pulling up the whole term. So that part failed, but the 2-mile setback was upheld in the Supreme Court for a county cited project. So I'm bringing this to everybody's attention because every county commissioner, the Association of Oregon Counties, frankly, should talk with our county commissioners in Umatilla County and say, you know what, you need to take this to the Supreme Court, and we'll file on as a friend of the court. Because whatever happens on this, it's going to affect all across the state. So in fact, as I said today, let's say I said, I'm praying that you take it to the Supreme Court. And Blue Mountain Alliance will file as a friend of the court on that case on our own dime. But when the Supreme Court gets it, they're not going to overrule the county's ordinance, because if they do, they are throwing away the entire land use codes in the state of Oregon. This is why we have them.
Well, and they're actually throwing away local governance and saying that all we have is some sort of dictatorship out of Salem that simply overrides everything that takes place. And actually, if they don't have a law that specifically says that this overrides or negates a local land use law, then them assuming that they can do this means they're assuming powers that, frankly, even the legislature didn't give them.
Exactly. And I really believe that this is a winnable case, a win-win case. And if they do nothing, if they do not take this to the Supreme Court, the county commissioners then are not looking out for the best interest of the county, which and holding them to account to follow our ordinances. This is something that the county commissioners, the people wanted. The county commissioners passed. It's been like 15 years ago. And so So I want to bring the awareness because this one case will affect the state.
Every
And
ordinance passed by everybody, especially around land use.
so another portion of the talk, and this is why I brought up this particular case, is because somebody had said, well, let's just get legislators to fix this. And so I said, so legislation is kind of how we got into this.
Yeah.
And
In fact, the reason why counties have land use ordinances is it's an outgrowth of state legislation that enabled that in the first place, right? So what you've got is one part of state law conflicting with another part. That's essentially what you have, right?
Right. Well, it is. And so what was stated today was that this last session, I don't remember the bill number, but it was passed that, you know what, that siting of solar is going to be follow all local codes except the super sites. And I said, what? What do you mean the super sites? That means FSEC, Energy Facility Siting Council, is going to cite the super sites and we can ignore anything. I said, that is not a win. If they're not willing to follow local ordinances, then that's not a win. I'm sorry. I argued with the particular commissioner who said that. And I frankly thought I was kind of flabbergasted that he thought that was a real win, because no, the Energy Facility Siting Council is not to just come in and take over whatever they want to do anywhere in our state and cite no matter what. That's not their job. And I think that legislation was a direct response to a very large solar project that the Supreme Court shut down over on the west side.
Mm.
That's what I think it was. And the Supreme Court shut it down. That project went away. And I think this legislation was done to give FSEC that power. And quite frankly, that's not right.
That's actually extending the concept of eminent domain to almost dictatorial level, where they can just go and say, you know what, we like those 10,900 acres, we're taking them, and the hell with you guys.
Yeah.
All of you
And
out in the colonies, you're in the vassal states of Portland, apparently, is what it turns into, right?
That is. And people on the west side might go, well, that's just the east side. That's okay. Well, you know what? It does. All of this stuff affects our state. And actually, solar panels, there's science out there that will show you that solar panels actually heat up the ground around. So it's going to affect your agriculture. Wind turbines dry the ground out. You run a fan, what happens, right? It dries the ground out. But this particular project is going to be sited on high value farm ground.
Yeah.
10,000 plus acres. And it should provide 600 jobs. That's very nice. 600 jobs.
You can't eat solar panels. So, I mean,
no, you cannot eat solar panels. And you know what? I think it's more appropriate that they are smartly sited. We've got scab lands. There's plenty of other places, but it's harder to install them in those places. It's real easy to put them on high value farm ground that's been farmed, right, to feed people. It's a little softer earth. So I just wanted to bring this attention to you about this type of issue. Talk to your county commissioners. Talk to those that that can. I know that one of our county commissioners goes to the Association of Oregon Counties, and he is talking to them. And I think it would be great if they came and said, you know what, maybe this is something that we need to pay attention to because it will affect their county as well.
Yep, absolutely. Worth the fight. Well,
so I do have one more thing. I want to tell you, I lost a PCP Saturday. It was actually late Friday night. And Granella Thompson was a great friend of mine, and she was just such a patriot. She wrote legislators. She met with legislators. She was a real. She believes in protecting our farmland. She's, I believe, was sixth generation. I don't quote me on that, but I think it was sixth generation farming. And her husband have a century farm. They are farming the family's land right here, actually in Athena and Weston area. A member of our Republican Women Club. And I mean, I'll tell you, she was just a powerhouse, a real articulate, educated, master's degree in music. She taught a lot of students how to play the piano.
Hmm.
And she is just a wonderful woman. And my thoughts and prayers are with her family, her husband, Jesse, and their 4 kids. It's but so unfortunate that we lost her, and it's leaving a big void in Umatilla County Republican Party as well as the Milton Freewater Republican Women, I can tell you.
Well, and I think you described to me before we went on the air that she was one of those people that would actively make her voice heard and set an example for others, writing to legislators, doing that thing that we were talking about. You got to do. You can't just be passive about it. She's this is a big loss.
It is.
It is a big loss, but also I like the fact that you got to pay tribute to her in the same day that you mentioned that you ran into a guy that was just driving you back for home who might get involved, and now you can talk to him about her and say this is what you can do. So we really have to not just pay tribute, but also the memory of who she was and what she did needs to live on in the future generations of people we bring into the party and help make their voices heard. That is the only way this whole grand experiment of America sustains itself. And that's a great thing to remember about her.
You know, I read her last text to me to the commissioners today, and it said, I support Blue Mountain Alliance and the commissioners taking this project to the Supreme Court. I will write letters if I have to. You know, that's it. That was Granella Thompson. My hat's off to you. Rest in peace. I know you are in heaven and you're going to be missed. You are missed.
Well, thank you for paying that tribute to her, Suni, and thank you to everyone who got to join us here today and hear Granella's story, hear the other stories we shared, and also the very important news and opinion that we do here. We brought it to you despite all the circumstances around us, and I'm proud that we get to do this, and I'm proud I got to do this with you today, Suni.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you to Bobby and Pat and our audience. Just thank you very, very much for your heartfelt sentiments there.
And we ask everyone to please pass the show along to the people who need to hear this. People need to hear Granella's story. They need to hear the things that we're learning about our justice system. They need to hear the story of somebody that might be new joining our ranks. They even need to hear all this false opinion that I spewed at the beginning of the show. And because they need to hear that there's no such thing as false opinion, of which I am guilty. So anyway, thank you again for being with us here tonight, everyone. And thank you, Suni, for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Kevin, for joining me. Good night, everybody.